Hey, BassGeek here, and today we're going to talk about suspended smallmouth in the winter. So before we get into talking about this, I do want to tell you that I'm going to be at the Raleigh Fishing and Saltwater Expo in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'll be there all weekend working the TRC covers booth. Make sure you come out, talk about fishing with us. Now, let's get down to business. So this has been a warmer than normal winter for us. And so a lot of the bass aren't necessarily out super deep hugging the bottom. If you find some big schools, you get there at the right time of day, they're actually up in the schools of shad. They're buried up, they're at the bottom feeding, even out in open water. So one of the things that I like to do when I find those smallmouth out over open water chasing is I like to use this. This is the ledge head drop head flash, and you'll see it's got a blade on the end of it. The reason I like to use that is when I get right over top of those schools of shad, that's going to stand out just a little bit more than all the rest of those hundreds or hundreds of thousands of actual shad that are sitting there that those bass can feed on. Now you work it very much the same way that you do the regular Damiki or drop rig. You're going to drop this down through that big ball of shad. You're going to set it right at the bottom, and you're just barely going to move it, if you move it at all. You're going to let the bait do the work for you most of the time. Sometimes you can take and shake this in and out of the school. Now that's something that I actually like to do. I like to pull it up into the school and then drop it back out just out the bottom of that school. And you'll see that on your electronics. That way you're in the middle of the school. If there's any bass that are just kind of hanging out there roaming with that ball of shad, they're going to see it. They're going to come attack it. One thing that I do use to kind of keep up with that ball of shad is my 360 scan. Now guys, so far, to be perfectly honest with you, in the lakes that I fish, I've not found a lot of use with my Humminbird 360. But out in open water, that's really where it begins to shine. One of the things that I do is I make sure that this is up tight to the body. So I make sure that that blade is as tight to that bait as I can get. The bait itself, the one I prefer to use, is the Bass Munitions Stealth Shad. Now this is one of my favorite colors. Again, it stands out from all the rest of those hundreds or hundreds of thousands of shad are going to be around there. This is the sour grape. Now, this is how you rig it. How I do it is I come straight down through the nose. I come out the slit in the belly. I spin it around. And then up through the back. Like I said, I like the blade to be up tight to the body, and you can play with that. Sometimes they'll want it pushed down and hanging down from the body. Sometimes they'll want it up. So let's talk about the rod, reel, and line setup. Before we even get started on that, I'm going to tell you, my favorite weight is the 3/8. Now, if it's windier or I'm fishing deeper, I'm going to move up to a 1/2 ounce. Rarely ever do I move past that 1/2 ounce. 1/2 ounce generally is a good size, and I've fished a 1/2 ounce weight in, 10 to 20 mile per hour gusts of wind. The 3/8 seems to have a good slow drop to it, especially with the blade. It's going to slow that drop down just a little bit. Now, if they're up, if for some reason the bait fish are up super shallow, we're going to say in that 5, 10, they're really no deeper than 15 feet. You might even want to downsize to 1/4 with a little bit slower drop and fall, so it creates a little more flutter action with that blade. Now, The rod and reel that I like to use, this is my Lew's Custom Speed Stick. This is the drop shot series in this. What I like about this rod is it's an extra fast tip. And when you're fishing those smallmouth vertical, a lot of times what happens is as soon as you set that hook, they turn and start to come up. I want a tip that's going to react quickly. It's going to come up with them. Now the spinning reel that I'm using, this is the Speed Spin Mock Crush. Love those orange accents. One of the big things about my spinning reel, a lot of spinning reels come in those 5 speeds. Again, when you're fishing deep, super deep, and smallmouth are really bad about this. I know if you didn't see in the last video, the 4.5 pound largemouth that I caught out of 40 foot of water, you know, he just kind of laid there. Just kind of laid there and pulled against me. Smallmouth, you set the hook, they'll give a dig, and they're rocket shipping toward the surface a lot of times. So you have to keep up with them. This reel is in the 6 speeds. So it's a faster retrieve. It's going to take up more line. Combined with that extra fast tip on this Lew's rod, that's going to keep me from losing those fish, giving them slack, because that's what you don't want to do. If you give these bass slack with these small hooks, it's very likely just to fall out. So you want to make sure you're keeping that little bit of pressure, that little bit of tension on at all times. So guys, this is just a real quick video giving you another option on the Damiki or the drop rig. You know, that flash, I really like it when I'm around a lot of shad. It really helps get that stand out. Just the same way a lot of times you're going to use an underspin around a lot of shad when you're throwing it over by them and coming through the bottom of them. That underspin, that blade, gives you just a little extra advantage when they've got thousands of things they eat every day swarming above their heads. Make sure you check out Ledgehead Lures, that drop head flash. I've got a discount code in the bottom for 10% off there. Make sure you check out Bass Munitions. I've got a code also for Bass Munitions to get you 10% off to save you some money. As always, questions and comments in the comment section below. You guys know I love to answer all your questions about this setup and this style of fishing. I love to do it. It's been a little tough this year and I haven't got to get out on the lake, but I love to do it and I love to answer your questions about it. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell so you get those notifications when these videos come out. And you guys rock.